这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
If you have ever met someone and felt an instant sense of familiarity, like you had known them long before that moment, this phrase was already waiting for you. The story of cut from the same cloth begins in a world where nothing was fast and nothing was cheap. In medieval England, cloth was not just something you wore. It was time, labor, and survival woven together. Sheep were raised for years. Wool was washed, spun, dyed, and woven by hand. A single mistake could ruin weeks of work. When a bolt of cloth was finished, it carried the fingerprints of everyone who touched it. In small towns, people knew cloth the way we know faces. They could tell where it came from, how strong it was, how long it would last. The local tailor did more than sew clothes. He shaped how people appeared to the world. His shop was quiet but serious. Scissors were sharp. Measurements were careful. Waste was a sin. From one roll of cloth, many lives were dressed. A father's coat, a son's jacket, a daughter's winter dress. When the cloth was laid out on the table, it was all the same at the start. Same texture. Same weight. Same hidden knots in the weave. Once the scissors came down, the cloth became different shapes, but deep inside, it stayed the same. People began to notice patterns. Two brothers raised in the same house, wearing coats from the same cloth, moved through the world in similar ways. They stood the same way. They spoke with the same tone. If one was stubborn, the other was too. If one was loyal, the other followed. Someone would say they were cut from the same cloth, meaning nothing fancy, just something true and obvious. Here the phrase took its first breath beyond fabric. Cloth was judged for its strength. So were people. A strong cloth held through cold winters and long days of work. A weak cloth frayed quickly, no matter how careful you were. When townsfolk spoke about cloth, they slowly learned how to speak about character. They did not plan it. Language simply followed life. As trade expanded, cloth traveled farther than most people ever would. Merchants carried rolls of fabric between cities. With them traveled words. Cut from the same cloth began to appear in places far from the tailor's table. It was used in markets, workshops, and homes. When two workers showed the same habits, the same honesty or the same tricks, the phrase fit perfectly. Then came the sea. Ships bound for distant lands were filled with men who owned very little. Their clothes were plain, durable, and often made from the same rough fabric. On long voyages, sameness became clear. Men who shared the same training and background reacted the same way when fear arrived. When a storm rose suddenly, one man moved and another followed without a word. They trusted each other because they recognized themselves in each other. Cut from the same cloth was said with a laugh, but the meaning was serious. At sea, knowing who you could rely on meant everything. The phrase grew stronger in these moments. It no longer belonged to cloth alone. It belonged to shared roots, shared pressure, shared beginnings. It described why some people understand each other without explanation, and why others clash so hard it feels personal. As generations passed, the phrase settled into everyday speech. Parents used it to describe children. Friends used it to explain loyalty. Enemies used it to accuse each other of the same flaws. The phrase did not care if the similarity was good or bad. It only pointed to sameness at the source. There is a quiet truth hidden inside this history. Cloth does not choose its origin. It does not choose the hands that make it or the scissors that cut it. In the same way, people do not choose where they begin. Family, culture, hardship, comfort, all of it shapes the early weave. This idea gave people comfort. You were not alone. You came from something. But it also carried weight. If you were cut from the same cloth as someone else, did that mean you would share their fate too? Life slowly answered that question. Even cloth from the same roll does not age the same way. One garment works the fields, soaked by rain and burned by sun. Another is worn only on special days, kept clean and folded. Years later, no one would guess they began as one. The phrase remained, but people learned to hear it differently. Today, when someone says two people are cut from the same cloth, they usually mean shared values and instincts. They mean that when pressure comes, these people bend or stand in the same way. It is not about destiny. It is about recognition. Think about your own life. There are people who feel familiar the moment you meet them. Conversation flows easily. Silence feels natural. When problems appear, you solve them in similar ways. And there are others who frustrate you deeply, not because they are different, but because they are too similar. Their flaws mirror yours. Cut from the same cloth is not a cage. It is a mirror. It shows you where you started, not where you must end. Once you understand the cloth you come from, you get to decide how you wear it. Whether you let it define you, or whether you reshape it through the life you choose to live.
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。